Hello, today I'd like to talk about holotropic breathing. That is a type of breathing that was invented in 1970s or so by Stanislav Grof. He was experimenting before, actually, with LSD, and eventually had to stop doing that. And he worked on this new breathing technique, which I guess a lot of people nowadays would call breath work. And I'd say it draws a lot of inspiration from Wilhelm Reich in terms of armoring on the body. Wilhelm Reich can be referenced to certain works like character analysis. That's one of his, actually probably his famous one for strictly psychoanalyzing character structures or armor structures on a character. And they can manifest in various ways. He actually gives certain body types, Reich, and, well, actually that was probably more later on with one of his disciples, Lowen, Alexander Lowen. And these different body types, there's Schizoid as one of them. You have like a sort of overly masochistic one who is always he is too agreeable or she is too agreeable. There's different character types. I want to say Alexander Lowen, he describes about 5. But anyway, going back to breathwork. So this is specifically holotropic breathing, and it's quite popular and recommended as a sort of group session or group work. I know there's a instructor out in California, I can't think of his name, but I've only practiced it alone. Music is recommended. Traditionally in this, it's like a drum accented music, but maybe that might be a little too intense. So my experiences, I guess it would go back a few months, off and on, trying to build up, I don't even want to say immunity, but working on not hyperventilating, because that's basically what this holotropic breathing involves, is a sort of breathing. I'll have to put the camera down. Breathing in, and the stomach is going out, and then it's very much a not chest oriented breathing like most people breathe. It's more like going from the stomach. Here is how babies breathe. It's more natural, something that we tend to forget over time. And so breathing like this, very hard to see that angle. It's interesting in that you should do this lying down, but it's almost like a cycle. It's going down and then up. I almost find it better to hold the, I guess we'd call the root, not the root. I can't think of what it is, but one of the three, maybe it is roots, that when you have the anal and near the throat, and I want to say your diaphragm area. I don't remember how that works, but the lower, holding that in the anal, when you do the exhale. So I find it easier if I inhale through my nose and exhale through the mouth. But exhaling through the mouth, I'll tighten my the anal sphincter muscles, and I kind of visualize that as the air going down and kind of not really hitting off of it, but kind of like circling off before it hits, and then rising back up towards the front. So almost, so inhaling kind of back, almost all back along the inside of the spine. That's how I think of it. And then going up and then to the front of the body. You could almost maybe even think of it as like the microcosmic orbit, Masochist type, where you have the infinity, like, and you could think of the air going, or the energy really going over behind, through your spine, through your legs, but then like your plexus here, solar plexus, that being kind of like the center of the infinity. You could think of it that way. Whatever is easiest to visualize. But I've had interesting experiences recently in the past couple months, after working on not hyperventilating, because it is unnatural at first, breathing rapidly. So you're, except I'd open up my mouth, but that is not natural at first, to pick up that pace of, it's not necessarily like a deep breathing like you might find in pranayama or something, where you're, slowly filling up down here and then up through your chest, and then exhaling everything out. I mean, you could do that breath cycle for a minute or two or longer if you're, do this for years. It's more, holotropic breathing is more rapid. I find it better to keep more air reserved down here, and then, but breathing that out continuously, rapidly. I find pressure down there to be better. I've noticed that the air, or keeping the air down here more, when you do that rapidly, it tends to push more against the root chakra, not the anal base or root, that block. That's what it is. No, it's pushing more against the root chakra, and if you do that long enough, with practice, you'll notice there's a really intense energy down there, and you don't have to meditate on it long, because it's going to you're probably going to start shaking a bit. And it's pretty common to get tetany, which is basically where the fingers or parts of your body lock up. So you got like lobster hands or something. So keeping that pressure down below, pressing against the root, and then you'll find a rhythm after you do it long enough. But I find it it's been the most effective for me is when I do have that pressure on the base. You actually might have to want to get up and take a piss too. But doing that, keeping that pressure down there, it's going to rise. I've had, past month, good success with it, clearing up some stuff in my throat. Hopefully I'm interested to see in what it would affect in the root area as well. Just with having issues with anxiety or fear, maybe not explicit on the outside, but going along with Reich, the Schizoid type, being quite terrified inwardly, but fairly calm on the outside. So these different character structures, so the Schizoid versus neurotic distinction, Schizoid being actually quite terrified, and the neurotic being looking for security, essentially. So those two distinctions, I'll read off what I wrote down, my experiences with holotropic breathing. Had a good session of holotropic breathing yesterday. Today I'm feeling sore in my calves and feet, shoulders, hands are slightly sore, but were more so yesterday just after practice. During practice yesterday, my calves, feet, hands, anus, penis, to a lesser degree, might have just needed a pee, throat and mouth area experienced tension. Everything below my knees and arms are frozen. I tried bending my wrist during time, but heard a slight pop. Felt like it was going to break, so I didn't move it anymore. My anus spasmed and I was slightly aroused. My arms moved up to my head involuntarily at some point, or bent back and clawed like a bird of prey drawing its wings. My neck also moved involuntarily, going back more to look more behind me. It was hard to exhale through my mouth after a while, so I had to inhale and exhale through my nose. That was the first really powerful session, and it actually did build up to a release in the throat. And I've done it recently as well, and it's similar. I feel more in the root, more connected there. So it's a very interesting breathing method that I've tried a few, like lucid dreaming, that sleep paralysis where you can't move your limbs. It's a little bit different than the tetany I've described. But yeah, lucid dreaming, sitting meditation, they've had their place. Holotropic breathing, I feel like, is very powerful methods. I guess like called shamanic, more primal. Just very effective. I would say you probably won't be able to do it more than once or twice a week, a good session, because they are very powerful experiences, and they might even make you more tired afterward, or at least they have for me. I'd be interested to hear what maybe anybody else's experiences with this, if maybe they felt more energized, or I've had different blockages loosen in other parts of the body than what I've described. Have a good evening.